Yeah, fly Eagles flying on the team. Touchdown. Time to get Jalen this ring. You don't really want to start a thing. This a bird game nation, baby. It's a Philly thing. Hater, and you looking like you type trash. I'm just here calling on Philly the podcast. And we can call a man dog or watch Miles score off the handoff. Rest of the division, your man Saul Jackson like Sean, hunting like Randolph. Season here, really time to do them in. Your boy Philly Fresco. Thanks for tuning in.
What is going on, you guys? It's your boy Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, joined as always by my guy Brandon, and it is Philly the podcast. So today we have a very special guest. We have Sheil Kapadia from The Athletic, NFL Insider. He's done work for a long time. I'm a very big fan of yours, so it is an honor to have you on the show, man. How you doing, Sheil?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. I had a lot more hair in that graphic you had up, so I hope I'm not catching people by surprise here.
We're catfishing them with NFL insiders. That's what we do over here. But so let's just hop right into it, man. Been a busy week for the Eagles. Been a busy week for the NFL. So I want to kind of go back a little bit before the NFL draft. You guys, when I say you guys, I mean you, Zach Berman, and Bo Wolf, put out kind of a collaborative effort article exposing, I guess, for lack of better terms, the inner workings of what's going on with Howie and everything. It was a huge article, great work. I don't want to get too deep into that. I kind of want to ask you, though, do you think that changed anything? Did you see anything different in the NFL draft?
It's hard to say so soon after, right? You talk to anybody in the NFL and right after the draft, in my experience writing about it, like every GM is fired up. They think they knocked it out of the park. They think every pick's going to be a starter. But when you just look at the process, it does seem like this was more coordinated. It made more sense, right? There weren't picks in this draft where everyone's scratching their head all of a sudden going, wait a minute, what in the world did they do here? And so I think there's a chance that, there have been some changes internally, not just because of the article we wrote, but when they kind of reflect on where they were as an organization, what failed last year, some of the other reports that have come out, all those things come together. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that this team won a Super Bowl, and 3 years later, coach is gone, quarterback's gone, and they were one of the worst teams in the NFL last year, right? So if you're not reflecting about how did that happen, what can we do differently, then you're destined to fail again. So I do think it seemed a little bit different this year as we sit a few days out of the draft.
And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this. I have to ask you, what were your initial thoughts of the draft? Now, especially a couple of days away, removed from it. How are you feeling about the draft picks?
I think they did a good job. I thought in the first round, my take going in was don't overthink it. Sit there and Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Patrick Surtain, one of those three guys is going to fall to 12. It's a need position. It's a premium position. They're all great prospects. Just chill. Take whoever drops at 12, but the draft didn't go how I thought it was going to go with those quarterbacks falling. And so all of a sudden, you had a decision. Do you sit at 12 or trade back and not get one of those players, or do you make a move up? And so typically I'm not in favor of moving up because I think you want to have as many draft picks as possible, especially with a team like the Eagles with so many holes on this roster. But I was in favor of it. I love Devontae Smith. I think, the guy was so prolific in the SEC, and I love his demeanor. I love kind of the personality he plays with. I think it's going to be a great fit for the city. And so ultimately you gave up the 84th overall pick. Would you like to have that? Yes. But, ultimately you have to make a decision. Would you have done the move or not done the move? And I would have done the move if I were the Eagles. So I think it was a good move.
Now, Joe and Sheil, I got to know, when you're watching this draft and all of a sudden you see Cowboys traded their pick and the Eagles just pop up on screen, I got to know what your mind was going at that point.
Well, it's kind of crazy because you always go in thinking there's no way that these two teams are going to make a trade, right? But it's happened in the past. And so I think probably that is a little overrated when we look at it. And I fall into it too. You're thinking, wait a minute, the Cowboys are going to help the Eagles here. That's nuts. But it has happened in the past. And I think teams just look at it when they're on the clock and say, what's the best trade we can make? You start to overthink it if you're thinking, they might get somebody who's going to hurt us in the future. Now, don't get me wrong. If Devontae Smith is going off for 160 and 2 touchdowns on the Cowboys next year, their fans are going to be thinking, why did we make this trade? But I think it was probably just the best trade on the table for them. And so they went ahead and took it.
Definitely. Now, diving in a little bit deeper into these draft picks, look, when round one was done, I was elated. I was probably as happy as I've been as an Eagles fan watching the draft. I feel like we nailed it. But going into the second round pick, we're looking for a flashy name. We're looking for a sexy pick, maybe another playmaker. We end up grabbing Landon Dickerson, who talent-wise was probably the best offensive lineman, available. Arguably top 3 in the draft, just talent-wise. Obviously, injury concerns and stuff like that. Can I just ask you, what are your thoughts about the Landon Dickerson pick? Is that a Howie pick, or do you truly feel that he was the top guy on their board?
Yeah, no, I don't think it was a Howie pick. I think I'm sure the scouting staff loved this guy because everything you hear about him, like you mentioned, the film is fantastic. He's played he started a game at every offensive line position in college. And I just know like coaches love that versatility because if you're the offensive line coach, Jeff Stoutland, you're going, all right, well, if this guy gets injured, I can plug him in here. If this guy, you know what I mean? Especially after what we saw last year, right? They're coming off a season in which they probably had the most injured team in the NFL. So I think that was a collaborative pick. Now, having said that, I was not a huge fan of this pick, not because I don't think he can be a great player. I think 3 years from now, you could be saying, wow, that was a home run. This guy has made multiple Pro Bowls. But to me, when you're at 37, I want fewer flags with the prospect. And he's had 4 season-ending injuries in 5 seasons in college. I think two different ankles and 2 different ACLs. So no one ever roots for anyone to get injured. We all want them to stay healthy. You want all these guys to stay healthy. I mean, the stuff they put their bodies through. But at the same time, if I'm looking at myself as the one making the pick, I'm saying, you know what? If it's kind of close between him and some other guys, let's be a little safer here. You can still swing for upside at 37. I mean, there were great players available. The defensive tackle from Philly, Christian Barmore, went next. There was a safety, Trayvon Merrick, who went to the Raiders a few picks later, Asante Samuel Jr. So it's not like you're at a point in the draft where you're saying, all right, there's nobody else left. Let's take a flyer on this guy. So to me, on day 3, once it gets to the 4th and 5th round, if you want to take chances on guys who have kind of an injury history, but big upside, absolutely do it. But to me at 37, I personally would have been a little reluctant to make that pick.
Yeah, I think a lot of us wanted Asante Samuel Jr. with that pick. There's just the whole, his dad was here, probably one of our best corners we've had in a very long time. And that was a while ago. And to have his son come here, I think we were all hoping for that. But were there any players that kind of stood out to you that you're like, wow, we really grabbed him outside of Landon Dickerson? I know who really stood out to Joe in round 3, but was there anyone that you're like, oh, I think maybe we reached a little bit there?
I don't think so. I think the day 3 picks made sense. I didn't look at any of those and think, why are they taking this guy this early? I thought they were pretty patient. What we talked about earlier, it seemed like, and we can't know for sure until, we do more reporting or it's a few years down the road. We can't know for sure, but it seems like they pretty much stuck by their board. And so the guys that they took, I thought that was right around where I expected those guys to go.
Yeah, now we can talk hours about what did happen at the draft, right? I want to kind of touch on something that didn't happen on the draft that may still happen. Zach Ertz, Zach Ertz was obviously a big name at the draft that was, tied to a lot of trade rumors. Is there anything you can kind of, maybe any light you can shed on that? Is he still possibly in a lot of trade rumors, or do you think that died down and he's going to be an Eagle?
I would say if I were, putting the percentages on it, I would still say it's more likely than not that he does get traded. Now, I think it was probably a situation where the Eagles look at it and maybe they got some offers before free agency, before teams signed some tight ends, and then before the draft, before teams drafted some tight ends. So that's typically when you want to pull the trigger on a trade like that, because there's uncertainty. Teams want to fill out their depth charts. Now teams have done that a little bit more with the moves that they've made. So I wonder if, I don't know if they were too aggressive in what they were asking for, or if they just thought, let's be patient. Let's wait until August, because we all know injuries are going to happen, whether it's training camp or preseason, and teams are going to have different needs on September 1st than maybe they do now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of hung on to him a little bit longer and said, all right, let's wait and make a trade. Or, it really could come in the next couple of weeks too. There could be teams who thought, we don't want to trade for him now. We might be able to draft a tight end, but all of a sudden the draft comes and goes and they don't find a tight end. And now they'll say, okay, let's go ahead and make a trade for a pick next year.
Are you comfortable with Dallas Goedert taking that like number one role at tight end? Because I mean, we had Zach Ertz for a long time, and I love Zach Ertz, and I'm like low key praying that it works out, and him and Howie are talking behind the scenes, and maybe he will come back and be able to flourish in this offense with Jalen Hurts. Do you feel like Dallas Goedert can take over that number one role?
I think he's going to be. I think it's going to be fun to watch him with an added workload and more targets and more catches. I mean, I think he definitely has the talent, but I think just with Zach Ertz, it was just the consistency. Year after year, third down, red zone. The guy was a master route runner. He knew how to set up opponents. He wasn't the one who's making except for the Super Bowl. He wasn't the one making highlight plays where you're saying, "Wow, he trucked this guy," or he made somebody miss. That wasn't his game. But there's so much value, like you said, in that consistency. Just what you're getting from the guy year in and year out. And I thought he was a fantastic Eagle. He will forever, live with it. That Super Bowl performance was incredible. Just, maybe one of the most clutch plays in Philadelphia sports history. So if I'm the Eagles and I'm looking at it, I guess you could bring him back, but he's entering the final year of his contract, right? So you're really just saying, let's keep him for 1 year. I don't think the Eagles are looking at 2021 as a year where they're going to compete for a Super Bowl. So I think it would really have to be a situation where they said, we just didn't get any offers worth even considering. Let's just keep him. He's a good leader to have around. He's a good teammate. He's a good culture guy. We know that. Let's keep him around. But I think if I'm Ertz, I probably would want to go somewhere he's nearing kind of the latter stage of his career. Not that he's on his last legs yet, but I would think he would want to go somewhere where he could kind of compete for a Super Bowl right away.
Definitely. Now, speaking on people on their last leg or latter part of their career, however we want to say it, we went defensive line heavy, and obviously, there's some huge names on that line that aren't getting any younger. We think of Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. The list kind of goes on for that defensive line. Do you think that this draft was a sign more for this year, or do you think this was kind of just getting ready for those bigger names to kind of move on next year?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think it was for the future. I think a good thing to do whenever you're preparing for the draft, or a thing I like to do, is look at like a year from now, who are the players who could be gone, because it's not just about what's going to happen this year. You've got these guys under contract for 4 or 5 years. And so it is more of a long-term commitment. And so even the young guys they have on the roster, Derek Barnett and Josh Sweat, those guys are only under contract for this year. And so, maybe you bring them back, maybe you don't, but you do want to make sure, I think especially the Eagles, they look at offensive line and defensive line as two areas where they don't want all of a sudden be caught and say, shoot, we don't have any reinforcements here. We only have aging players. We have players who are no longer under contract. So there's a lot of uncertainty with Barnett and Sweat being free agents, with Graham being older, with Fletcher Cox getting up there a little bit. I think this was a year or two, if you have the ability to add defensive line options, and we all know they're not all going to work out, right? I mean, day 3 picks are kind of like lottery tickets, and you see what happens. But if you hit on one of those guys as even a rotational player who's your third defensive end or your third defensive tackle, that's a great use of a day 3 pick. So I do think that's what they were looking at with those picks.
And I just got to know your reaction real quick, because one big thing for the Eagles during this draft was obviously the exchange between Howie Roseman and Tom Donahue, and like the Eagles are up there, he's dapping everyone up, and then this awkward exchange just happens. What were your thoughts when you first saw that?
Yeah, it was kind of, I think I was comparing it to like when my 8-year-old, when she's mad at me and I go to like dap her up and she just gives me that look like I'm not showing you any love. That was kind of, Tom Dono is, maybe 8 times older than she is, but that's what it kind of reminded me of. It's just like, I don't know, it kind of felt typical for where the Eagles are right now. I think fans went into this draft thinking we're going to hate this draft no matter what. This team has not done the things we wanted them to do in recent years. And all of a sudden you look at it and it ends up being a pretty good draft. But even with that, a lot of the conversation is like, what in the world was happening there with that fist pound in the 3rd round? So listen, it's common for people to disagree on draft picks. Like that happens in every NFL draft room. You're not always going to agree. That's healthy. You need to have those conversations, those arguments. It's rare to kind of get that caught on camera where a guy is just so like kind of annoyed by a pick that he doesn't even want to give you a fist pound. What GMs will often say is that, we can disagree, but once we make the pick, like we're all behind that player. Like we got to make sure they feel welcome. We've got a culture that's going to help them improve, help them maximize the talent they've got. And so, is it a huge deal? No, but given the article that you mentioned that we wrote about earlier and some of the disagreement, the dissension in the organization, I think given that lens, it wasn't nothing. It was something to talk about. If this was 2018 and they're coming off a Super Bowl victory and that happens, we all sit here and have a laugh about it and say, who cares? You were just at a parade 2 months ago. It doesn't matter. But just the state of the organization is definitely going to be something you talk about.
Yeah, I think timing this year has been impeccable by media and by the Eagles themselves. They put themselves in probably the worst predicaments at the best times. So it was hilarious. Like you said, just viewing it from that lens, I definitely got a laugh out of it. I'm sure it happens in every NFL draft war room. But let me ask you this. We're heading into this season. I know, look, just a little background about me and Brandon. He's very optimistic 99% of the time. I'm not. So, I'm that 1%er that doesn't get very optimistic. But what do you think about this team going into this season? We have a lot of young, unproven talent. Do you think we can make some noise in this NFC East? Because I feel like, and you guys, tell me if you disagree, I feel like the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Washington football team, they all kind of went towards the future as well with this draft. I don't think anybody outside of maybe a Devontae Smith really got an immediate impact player. So do you think that we can make some noise in this NFC East?
It's not a great division. I mean, last year it was historically bad. And like you mentioned, the Giants made some big moves in free agency, but they've still got Jason Garrett calling plays for that offense. So I'm not that optimistic that they're going to make a huge leap regardless of what players that they added. That's just, I hear people say Daniel Jones now has no excuses. And don't get me wrong, I don't think he's great, but I mean, the offensive coordinator does not have a track record of being able to help the quarterback there. So I don't think they're great. Washington, very good defense, but offensively, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's sort of, boom or bust. 1 week you watch him and you go, this guy's going to the Hall of Fame. And the next week you watch him and he's got 3 interceptions. So I like watching Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think he's aggressive and fun, but I'm not convinced that they're going to be making a huge leap. And I thought the Cowboys had a really head scratching draft, to be honest with you. I thought they took 3 or 4 guys with real character concerns. They took a cornerback who our draft guru for The Athletic, Dane Brugler, he puts out his top 300 players before every draft. And this guy wasn't even in the top 300. I think he was the only player drafted who wasn't in the top 300. Now, maybe they found a diamond in the rough and the guy's going to be the next Richard Sherman. I don't know, but I thought they left themselves open to question. So I look at the Eagles, and I think what you said is very key, is that this year is about looking at those young players and seeing what you have in them. Jalen Reagor, Devontae Smith, Josh Sweat, Derek Barnett, some of the offensive linemen. You really want to see, are these guys we can build around going forward, or are these guys who might be role players or guys we kind of move on from in the future? And of course, the biggest one there, we haven't even mentioned his name, is Jalen Hurts, right? I mean, that's going to determine whether they make some noise or not. It's hard to read too much into his season last year, just because the team was a mess and he didn't have a lot around him. And so there were moments, I thought early on, especially, where you go, wow, he looks a little bit better than I thought he was going to look. And then it was a weird trajectory, because then it kind of got worse as the weeks went on, where at the end you're going, all right, this is kind of what I thought he might look like. So we just have to see what he's going to look like. So I don't think they're going to be like among the worst, 3, 4, 5 teams in the NFL. I think when you look at their strength, it's on the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. I think their offensive line is going to be better than last year. I think their defensive line is going to be better than last year. So that usually gives you a chance to be competitive. Beyond that, there certainly are some question marks. So best case scenario would maybe be like, you make some noise. The division isn't that great. It wouldn't like totally stun me if they won the division. At the same time, it wouldn't stun me if they finished in last place in the division. So I'm not giving you like a strong take or a stance right now. I understand that. It's just kind of hard. I do think they have that kind of variance.
I'm standing on that fence with you. Trust me, I'm on that fence. But go ahead, Brandon.
I just try to be optimistic just because it makes me feel a little bit better. This season was so demoralizing.
Yeah.
But just speaking of Jalen Hurts real quick, as of right now, obviously anything can change between now and August, now and September. But it appears that Jalen Hurts is kind of getting the starting gig. I don't think he's going to lose to Joe Flacco by any means. But do you think if he does get the starting gig this season, do you feel like the bar might be set too high for him? Like the chances are like very not against him. Like everyone keeps saying we have the firepower next year to go after a quarterback if we want. Do you feel like he has too high of expectations coming into this season?
Yeah, because when you look at what the Eagles did in getting that draft capital for next year, both in the Wentz trade and in the trade down from number 6, it's clear that they were stocking up, right? That if they need to take a quarterback or take a big swing next year, they want to be able to have the draft capital to do that. And so there are like 2 good scenarios for them. One is that Jalen Hurts plays really well. And all of a sudden you're saying, shoot, we don't need to spend that draft capital on a quarterback. We've got a guy here. This is a great surprise. He's on a rookie contract. We can use those draft picks to make other moves and improve the roster. That's a great outcome. Eagles fans would be over the moon with that outcome. The other good outcome, and it sounds weird to say, is that Jalen Hurts doesn't play well at all. And you say, all right, you just want to know definitively, all right, he's not the guy. Look at this. He's turning the ball over. The accuracy is all over the place. He might be a nice backup, but you're not going to put all your eggs in the Jalen Hurts basket going forward. That's actually a fine outcome because it's not going to feel like that when you're watching in week 12 going, man, they stole my Sundays from me. But if you look at it in the long run, that's a good outcome because for sure on Jalen Hurts, you've got draft picks to make. And all of a sudden next offseason, you really can take a big swing at a quarterback. The situation that's going to be tough and that's really, I think, realistic is that Jalen Hurts is kind of okay. Maybe he's like 1 week he looks good. The next week he doesn't look great. You look at it at the end of the season and you say, all right, he's like the 18th best quarterback in the NFL. Well, where does that leave you? Do you see enough in your internal scouting to say, yeah, but this was only his first season as a starter. He's got that upside. Or do you say, that's probably what he's going to be. And that's the decision that they could face here going forward. So I think that's kind of the 3 scenarios that could play out with Jalen Hurts. The supporting cast, I think we probably overrated a little bit. They've got fun players, don't get me wrong, but Devontae Smith is going to be a rookie. Jalen Reagor, you don't know for sure what you're getting from him. Dallas Goedert has never been a full-time player before or stayed healthy to be a full-time player before. The offensive line has talent, but is getting a little bit older. So it can really go either way. It could be a situation where 6 weeks in, you're saying, wow, they do have a great supporting cast around him. Or it could be a situation where you're saying, man, we kind of did overrate this supporting cast a little bit. And I didn't even mention the coaching. I mean, we have no idea, whether Nick Sirianni is going to be the next coming of Bill Walsh or a guy who everyone at the end of the season is going, we got to move in a different direction. So it's really a huge unknown there.
Definitely. Now that actually brings me to my last question I want to ask you is actually about Nick Sirianni and going back to the beginning of this podcast when I brought up the article that you guys wrote with that lens, with that in mind, if you could speak to Nick Sirianni prior to him becoming the coach or whatever, what do you think the best advice for him going into this organization for his best chance of success would be? What suggestions or advice would you give him?
Yeah, it's a good question. And after we did that article, some people did actually reach out to me, and one person did say, I think this will be a good thing for Nick Sirianni to actually read before he becomes the head coach, or as he becomes the head coach, because he's going to know kind of what he's getting into in Philadelphia. And so, it's a situation where you just have to know that, Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, they are in control of personnel. They're calling the shots. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to be, every day telling Nick Sirianni what to do or anything like that. Even Jeffrey Lurie, I think he's involved, but he's not like a confrontational guy, So I think he asks questions. He wants to be involved, but like no one in the article we did came to us and said like Jeffrey Lurie's a jerk or a bad guy, or like people get along with him. So I think Sirianni has to know that going in, know that you're not going to have a huge say probably in personnel moves. Know that there is going to be a little bit of this analytic slant where they're going to want you to deploy some of the latest things, whether that's going for it on 4th down, when to go for it on 2-point conversions. And to me, those things are a positive as long as you're managing those relationships. And Sirianni's not going, why is everyone second guessing me? He's going, all right, these guys are here to help me. So those are some of the things I think he probably needs to know going into this situation.
That's awesome. Well, hopefully Nick Sirianni's listening. Hopefully he read the article. Hopefully he's in the know, because we all need a winning team. But Sheil, I appreciate your time so much. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. This was fun.
Definitely. And everybody definitely go check out Sheil's work over at The Athletic. I will have links in the description. But we're going to keep on going, man. I'm going to get you out of here, Sheil. We'll definitely talk again and hopefully get you on here again.
Sounds good. Take care, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, man. Have a good one. All right. So, yeah, you know how I do, bro. I'm going to keep going. If you got to get back to work, I understand how that works.
I just want to address this. I feel like people are underestimating our young guys, and not underestimating is that I guess we just don't know. I don't know if we neglected the linebacker position per se. You figure we still got 2 starters from next year with Singleton and TJ Edwards. And then you got Davion Taylor, Sean Bradley, and the guys that we did draft this year. That's a lot and Eric Wilson that we did pick up in free agency. So I feel like personally we have a decent amount of linebackers to test the waters with, to say if this is one of those years to really see who we got going.
Yeah, I think they all suck, but we'll find out. I'm just kidding. We'll find out. I hope that we're good, man. Like we were just saying, we have nothing but, I guess there's no better word of saying, but they're all unknowns. And sometimes that could be good. Sometimes that can be bad, and I hope that it's good. I hope that it's a good thing. I hope that we can figure this out. But I'm not getting my hopes up, man. I'm out here just like Sheil was. I'm going to ride the fence, bro. I'm going to ride that fence and, figure out what we are as we go. But I have all the hope in the world. So, and we're going to have a couple of these players on, a couple of these draft prospects that we did pick up. I won't say too much because I feel like when I do talk, things get anyways, we are going to have some people on here. So looking forward to that. But yeah, man, I mean, do you have time? Do you want to chill for a second?
Yeah,
or do you got to give
a couple more minutes, to be honest?
Yeah. So, let me ask you, because I was just doing the top 6. I just did my video for the top 6 wide receivers I think will make it. I'm not even going to – you probably saw the video, so I'll say anyways. But the top 6 that I had was Devontae Smith, obviously, Jalen Reagor, Travis Fulgham. I think those are obvious. And then I had Quez Watkins, had Trayvon Grimes, and I had Quez Watkins, Trayvon Grimes. Who did I have? Did I have John Hightower?
There's Hightower, Ward.
I'm pretty sure I had say that again.
I said there's Hightower, Ward, JJ.
Yeah, no, I definitely wasn't Ward or JJ. So it was Hightower, I believe, was the 6th person.
The boot?
I did. And that's what I want to ask you. I want to know, do you think that, Greg Ward has a spot in this, on this roster? I mean, he's not the speedy guy. He's not really a cut guy. He's not a big guy. So, I'm not saying speed is everything, but what would his role really be?
How are you going to tell me he's not the speed guy? He was on punt returns, kick returns.
He was on punt returns. But that's the thing, too. It's he's not even he was a liability out there, if we're being 100% honest. So, what is his role? What would he even do here?
I mean, I think he might have a safer spot than Travis Fulgham right now, only because if Howie and Jeffrey are making some of the personnel decisions, or 99% of them, he's someone that they know. He's someone that became in that role the last 2 seasons, to be honest, that role that once he started, he became kind of like that liable, like that person that we can rely on, his steady, good amount of hands. I don't like him in special teams, but even when he got that big touchdown catch against Washington, against Josh Norman a couple seasons ago, it just showed that he had the drive and he has the hands to be kind of like that 3rd and 4. And he just does a quick stop and boom, you hit him right there. So I think that he actually has a better chance of making the team than Travis Fulgham. Something must have went down last season where Travis either was figured out, bad work ethic, or just maybe Doug Peterson was neglecting him or saving him for this year because they knew that we need to keep him healthy and we know what he is. So something must have went down last season as to why broken down Alshon Jeffrey got all the snaps, literally all the snaps from Travis Fulgham. So I don't know. My top 6, I would have to go. Obviously, the two obvious ones are Jalen Reagor and Devontae Smith. I'm going to say Greg Ward. That'd be number one, one of my six. I do think by everything I was just saying, I do think Travis Fulgham, he's our big body guy. And then it's tough because I can see a battle between like the last four, between John Hightower and Quez Watkins. Who's better? I personally don't know. I've seen both of them. I've seen Hightower get open but drop the ball in big situations. And I think I've seen Quez Watkins have that one touchdown really on that like wide receiver.
Yeah, that's really about it.
Where the defensive guy missed him and then he took it to the house for like 30 yards. So, I mean, you could put a battle between them for the 5 spot and then the 6 spot. I mean, it's kind of JJ Arcega-Whiteside's job to lose in a sense. I mean, if you watch other people's film on Twitter and stuff, I forget the guy's name, but they showed him getting open plenty of times. And Carson Wentz did play favoritism more often than not. He was more focused on either Greg Ward or Zach Ertz, the guys that he knew. He couldn't even dump the ball up at times to Miles Sanders. So I kind of feel like JJ's getting a fresh start here. And maybe Nick Sirianni will know he is that jump ball kind of guy because we saw maybe his 2 catches were jump balls. So I don't know.
I agree with AK Eagles here, bro. I mean, you know, look. If he goes out there and he balls out, if he goes out there and balls out, if he has talent, if he plays well, then I'll shut up quick, bro. I will shut up quick. But he ran probably like over a couple hundred routes in his Eagles lifetime right now. And he was open maybe 10 times in those routes. A lot, like realistically. And he is, even when you try to give him the ball, he's just not good. He's just not good. Even when we saw him get open and make plays, it's because he bumped into the other guy and wasn't running his right route. Like he's just not good. And he's not good at anything. He doesn't play special teams. Like he's a blocker. So maybe you move him to tight end. That's literally the only way I would have him on this roster. That's it. I do not want to see him on this team. If you are preaching competition, there's no way that this man is going to make this. I'm sorry. Like, there's no way. I just don't see anything in this man, like, at all. And we talk about, you know, Travis Fulgham kind of falling off. We did have, I forget who exactly it was, but they did say that there was some work ethic problems or whatever. But I don't see him making this roster at all. No way he's making this roster. Not for me at all.
Well, I mean,
yeah, I'm with you there, Joe. Prove me wrong, bro. Exactly. Prove me wrong. Just if he proves me wrong, I'm cool. But there's no way I can be.
That's fine.
There's nothing you showed me that I can be really like optimistic about him.
I just want to be on the side of that. I can say I told y'all so. I seen it. My Spaniard brother. That's a stupid side to be on. That's a bad hill to die on. Do not die on that mountain. It is not worth it. It is not worth it. But I mean, look, you know, we talk about JJ, we talk about the wide receivers. I really want to focus on Greg Ward real quick because I like the guy. I really do. I really like Greg Ward. So I'm really trying to make it make sense. You know what I'm saying? That's really what I'm trying to like. I'm trying to find the spot for him. But the one thing I will say about Quez Watkins is he's a threat on special teams. We saw that in college. John Hightower, he's up in the air for me because I think he's a good receiver and he showed flashes. Me and you talked about it even early last year that he was just not that aggressive at the catch point. He got open though. I will give him that. And he runs good routes. I will give him that. There wasn't much separation. I think that's something he can work on. But there's something there with John Hightower. Greg Ward is the oldest, kind of the least versatile, I guess I can say, because I mean, I really don't want to see him out there returning punts. I really don't want to see that no more. And if it's between him and Jalen Reagor in the slot, I don't really want to see Jalen Reagor coming off the field, you know. And if you are, I'd rather you put somebody like a Quez or a John Hightower that's not exactly, but very similar to Jalen Reagor. Then you're just continuously coming at defenses. You know what I'm saying? So like, what if he runs better routes than them? I mean, I don't know if it was John Hightower or Quez Watkins, but one of them posted like a video of them doing just a quick hitch route. And the guy looked like he couldn't control his body. He couldn't stop. You see all these other top young guys doing those quick moves and planting on their foot and cutting back as to it. And he looked like he couldn't stop. We compare him to Jason Avant a lot because of having like the reliable hands. And during that time, I mean, Jason Avant, he wasn't the most skilled wide receiver, but he made big
Facts.
needed. And I feel like that's something that every team should have, that guy that can catch the ball and run at least enough routes that on a 3rd and short that you don't need to automatically just hand the ball off, that you can do a play action and get him real quick in the void or in a slant route real quick just to get the first.
Facts.
But I agree.
I mean, we'll see. I hope that I know he's going to go in there and battle. That's why I keep bringing it up. Like, I know it's not going to be just a handed position to him, which I think a lot of people think it will be. Like, I think he's going to be on that bubble. But AK Eagle says, hey, what would you think if we tried him out at tight end? Go ahead. I mean, hey, who knows? I mean, Darren Waller wasn't a great wide receiver. You know, that's why they moved him to tight end. He was fast. He had some speed. J-Jaw doesn't really have that speed that Darren Waller has. I think that's pretty obvious, but try it. You know, I'm at that point. Try it. If you think he'll do
Butler,
better.
or whatever his name was, Butler.
Hakeem, but we have a lot of tight ends, dude. We have Jason Kroom. Obviously, we still technically have Ertz and Goedert. So we got 3 right there. We got Hakeem Butler. We got Tyree Jackson, that Jack Stahl guy that we just got. We got a lot of tight ends, dude. Like, we got a lot. So we have a lot of, like, random players because we got a lot of wide receivers, too. We just don't know if any of them are, necessarily great. So I guess we'll figure it out. We'll find out. I said JJ needs to go to the practice squad. That's something that can't technically happen because I think he was on the active roster for 2 years or more, and I think that's the cutoff point even with COVID. But that's a good point because somebody like John Hightower, somebody like Quez Watkins, they might make the practice squad. They might go untouched, but we got to think about that too. If we put somebody like Trayvon Grimes on the practice squad, how safe do we feel that he's not going to get taken up? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm nervous about too. And just like what Sheil was saying, bro, we're in a weird year that a gray area can screw us. Like if we're just like a 500 team, we don't have good draft picks. You know what I'm saying? We have like a 16 maybe or whatever that would be if we're a 500 team. And then we have the Dolphins, who I doubt are going to be trash. I mean, I'm hoping that Tua isn't good, but like I doubt he's going to be trash. So at the end of the day, we're not going to have high draft picks. So I mean, I don't know. We need to figure something out. So I don't know.
Yeah, you gotta hope. I mean, shoot, I hope the Colts stink too. I hope that they play Carson Wentz and they stink, and we can get some higher draft picks and get into the top 12 at least.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen. I have no faith in what we're gonna do. I mean, if we can, I guess it does all factor in on Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts just has to have a prove it season. Like that's really what it comes down to.
So a question for you that I haven't asked yet. Let's say the draft played out where it played out how it did, but instead of the Cowboys trading, they take Micah Parsons at 10, Devontae Smith at 11. Who would you have wanted at 12 if both of those guys were taken at that point? Because at that point, the 2 corners are gone. Micah Parsons is gone. The wide receivers are gone. Who would you have wanted at that point?
Probably Rashawn Slater. I probably would have been the best pick. And then it would have been interesting to see who would have went in the second round, to be honest. So, I mean, I probably would have took Rashawn Slater. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that I was really high on. Maybe in the moment, I probably would have I might have said Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. But maybe in the moment, I probably would have said his name. I might have said one of the corners. But most likely Rashawn Slater, just because he would have been the best on the board. That's really where I would be. He said Fields. I got it. Don't worry.
I got you.
He said Fields. Yeah. And if we would have took a quick, that's what scares me about these picks, guys. If it's not going to be, if we're going to be terrible and we have a high draft pick, then okay, we're going to have a couple good picks and that's cool. But if we're a mediocre team, if we're a middle of the road team, like these picks aren't going to mean anything. We're going to have to give them all up to move into the top 10 and get a future quarterback. So, these first round picks sound good and they look good and everything, but man, I hope they work out. That's my main thing right now. I hope they work out. But what do you think about this team going into the year, man? Where do you have them? Did the draft change your mind at all?
A little bit. I think I when you look back at it, and obviously every player, no matter where you draft them, number 1 or number whatever the 7th round last guy is, you got to hope that they pan out. And We got to hope that the Slim Reaper is what he is and can translate to the NFL. We got to hope that maybe Milton Williams kills it. Maybe he comes off the bench and is that rotational guy that we don't see, like last year when Fletcher Cox went out against the Cowboys and we couldn't get any pass rush with Malik Jackson at the defensive line, let alone a rookie now. So if we can get some production from him, so when our starters need to go get some water, then we can still be good. So I'm slightly optimistic only because of the new coach, new scheme, new players in a sense. But I'm also prepared for a down year. When Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz, when they came into town the first year, we stunk. I think we were 6-10 that season or something like that. So you got to be prepared for that too, and I just hope that if we do stink this season, Howie and Jeffrey just don't blow it up right away. You got to give like how they wanted to fire everybody after the first season that Doug Peterson was there. You kind of have to give them like a second season to really get everyone acclimated with everything. So that's kind of my hope. It's like if we do stink, just don't blow it up like crazy. Because otherwise,
yeah, I mean, you would have to probably move on from Jalen. I mean, Jalen's in a terrible situation. We've said this before. I feel so bad for him because like we have too many assets for Howie to really hold back. I mean, I know he's gonna want to go get a quarterback. If Jalen Hurts is not better than average, if he's not well above average, Jalen Hurts is gonna probably want to. I mean, Howie's probably gonna want himself another quarterback. Which brings us to this question: what's your guys' definition of a successful year for Hurts? I mean, for me, honestly, like, I just want to see him play. I think that there's an eye test. I know a lot of people, think people laugh when you say eye test, but you can watch a player and see if they're a good, talented player, right? Like, I feel like you can see that. I want to see him do better. Team success for me isn't something I can really factor into his success.
Right.
But it's going to be hard to really define what success is for Jalen Hurts because as a quarterback, you are kind of defined by your team success. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, you have Devontae Smith, so there's really not much excuse, but you have a little bit of excuse, especially if we get injured like we always do. So I'm just looking for individual improvement and something to build upon, and from there, I guess, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You can't put on like, oh, his record is 8-8 or 8-9 or whatever because we're playing 17 games this season. You can't put that on him per se unless we're losing games because of him. I think the real thing to really pay attention to is, like you said, the eye test. You can't really even go off stats really because you can see if he made good passes. You can see if the ball was there, but the wide receiver dropped it. You could see that he was making the good read, but the wide receiver couldn't get separation. You could see when you're watching the game, he takes 3 steps and he has 3 dudes in his face because the offensive line couldn't block. Those are different things. Like there's going to be a lot held against him, but if he can limit turnovers, limit those fumbles, because we did see quite a few fumbles last year. We're kind of used to it with Carson. He fumbled a lot. But if he can get those fumbles under control, and if he's going to throw an out route, make sure you're timing it perfect because I think he knows that these corners are going to jump back. He could have had 2 more interceptions, but they were dropped. So different things like that. I agree with you 110% that you can't really look at the team success, even though when a team wins, the quarterback wins. And then if a team loses, then it's like, well, that quarterback sucks because they're losing. It's like, well, the defense gave up 45 points and we put up like. So I get it, and it's the argument all the time. But that's my last question. I'm gonna have to head out, but I will be in the comments while I'm typing. So
yes, sir. All right, brother. Be safe. He said, my only problem with Jalen is ball security. We can't have him fumbling the ball like crying ass Carson did. I agree. I mean, realistically, I think Jalen Hurts has, like I said, he has an unfair situation, but it's not going to be his first time having an unfair situation. So I think he'll be fine. I think he'll prosper. I think he'll do well. But we'll see. We will see. I'm on the fence, man. That's really where I am. I'm on the fence about everything right now. I'm not getting too high. I'm not getting too low. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna play the sideline and we're gonna see what happens. That's it. I'm sure he's gonna hop in the comments with y'all in a second. Jalen got to cut down on turnovers. He might be a lot more productive than he is right now. And yes, he does. He definitely does. I'm not gonna say that he doesn't, but you can put a lot of that on that terrible offensive line as well. He was forced to make quick decisions. Hurts will be fine. His work ethic and drive to succeed will make him better than Wentz ever was. Hey, I like that. Bring that smoke. And all these kids, man, and I say kids, they not that young, but all these young men, they have the potential, they have the mentality. So I'm excited, man. He said, damn, yeah, I wish I could let Wentz live. He don't play here anymore. It's not gonna happen, bro. It is what it is. Like, people are always gonna bring up Wentz. It is what it is. That's what Eagles fans do, bro. Like, we still talk ish about Donovan McNabb. We still talk ish about people that we drafted 20 years ago. That's just what the Eagle fans do, man. Like, you're a part of this franchise for the rest of your life when you get drafted here, for good, for better, or for worse. It is what it is. But I mean, I ain't mad. I don't really care. I wonder where all this energy for Wentz was. Wentz didn't do anything wrong back then. Like, I don't understand. Like, am I supposed to just, like, I don't even care. I'm not going to argue about Wentz. Yeah, I'm not going to argue about Wentz. But we are still paying $34 million this season. So, exactly, like, he's still part of this team fiscally. Shoot. So, we can still talk junk. But, hey, if he gets us a first-round pick, I'm over it. I don't really care. Get me a first-round pick. Hopefully, they're trash. Play 75% of your snaps and get, like, 3 wins. And that'll be a win-win for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's all I know. But, it is what it is. It's Hurts season. Hurts is my quarterback. You know what I mean? But what do you guys think about Jamie Newman? Because, honestly, bro, Jamie Newman, I'm not saying he's going to take the starting spot. I don't think he'll take the starting spot. But he's going to push Jalen Hurts. I don't think that it's going to be, it's going to be cushy like it was with just Joe Flacco. Like, Joe Flacco ain't taking nobody's job. And like I said, I don't think Jamie Newman will. But he's going to be another arm for these guys to look at and maybe a good development prospect. But I like that kid. I like a lot of our undrafted free agents, to be honest. So I'm hyped. I'm definitely hyped. But we do have some interviews lined up for next week. Couple of our new players are coming on the show. We're gonna talk some shop. We're gonna have some fun, but I'm about to get out of here, y'all, because I gotta do homework. I appreciate everybody. We still got 30 people in here. Please do hit that like, hit that subscribe on your way out. If you are new, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate it. There's still like 58% of you guys that aren't subscribed. So if y'all could, fix that for me, I'd appreciate that. I'd appreciate that. I have to look more into him. I like the fact that he has, that's what I like too. I like that realistically, like I said, I think he'll push him to get better. But at the same time, if something is to happen to Jalen Hurts, you got a guy that, can come in and basically play the same game that you had for him. But I still have my Wentz jersey. It keeps my cat warm at night. Good development QB. I hope he never plays and we can flip him. Facts. I think that's the hope with all these late round picks. But either way, I'm about to get out of here. I appreciate all you guys. If you are here for the Sheil Kapadia interview, it is the first 25 minutes. Just go ahead and rewind that. But I appreciate all you guys. Be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, become a member if you want to. It is only $1 and the link is in the description. But other than that, I might be back on later on tonight. Who knows? But y'all know what it is, man. It is Fly Eagles Fly. And we are out here.